The forest was too quiet. Any Marine who'd been on night ops knew the rhythm of silence. Frogs, owls, the occasional snap of a twig. But this was different. No insect buzz, no animal calls, just the crunch of boots in pine needles and the hum of night vision goggles tinting the world in eerie green echo too. Sound off static. The radio hissed like something breathing on the other end. Then, half a word, half a scream, and the channel cut dead. The squad froze. Training kicked in. Rifles up, eyes sweeping the trees. They'd been told this exercise was routine. Patrol, secure a perimeter, simulate contact. But the way Sergeant Miles tightened his grip on his M4 told the truth. Something about this wasn't in the briefing, Corporal Diaz whispered. That wasn't comms interference, shut it, Miles growled. Form line, eyes high. They advanced deeper, boots muted against the moss. Every Marine felt it, that pulse in the chest, that ancient fight-or-flight screaming to turn back. But Marines don't turn back. They move forward. Then came the first sound, a low growl. Not the bark of a dog, not the screech of a mountain cat. A resonance that rattled through the ribcage like it lived inside your bones, Private Anders muttered. Christ almighty, before Miles snapped his hand into a fist. Silence. The growl grew into something worse. A howl, long, hollow, echoing through the trees until the forest itself seemed to bend beneath it. Rifles clicked into full auto. Flares were primed, claymore charges unhooked from packs, because that howl wasn't just sound, it was a challenge. Movement at 10 o'clock. Green shadows flickered across the NVGs. Something moved fast, too fast between the trees. The squad wheeled, barrels flashing with suppressed bursts. Muzzle fire painted stuttering ghosts across the night. But the thing didn't fall. Eyes. On, Miles demanded. No clear visual. Diaz whispered. And then? Gone. Like the forest swallowed it whole. The squad's breathing turned ragged. In the silence after gunfire, hearts thudded like drums. Anders swore he could hear panting. Close, just behind them, he spun, but there was nothing. That was when they found Echo 2, or what was left. His body was pinned to a tree like a doll. Gear shredded, helmet cracked down the middle, claw marks gouged through his vest, deep into the bark itself. And his throat gone. The Marines recoiled. Discipline clashed with instinct, with nausea. Diaz gagged. Anders whispered, what the hell could do that? Miles didn't answer. He didn't have to, because the howl came again. Closer this time. The forest erupted with tension. Every Marine knew this wasn't a drill. This wasn't insurgents, smugglers, or anything they'd trained for. This was something older, something stronger, something that turned their rifles into sticks, and it was hunting them. If you felt the chill of that first howl, stay with us. Subscribe before the night takes you. They pulled back from Echo 2's body in silence. Nobody wanted to admit what they'd seen. Nobody wanted to say the word claws. Sergeant Miles barked orders, his voice low but steady. Form, staggered column, eyes open, safeties off. We move. Now the Marines obeyed, but fear leaked into their discipline. The forest felt wrong. Thicker, as if the trees themselves leaned closer with every step. Their NVGs made it worse. Every flicker of shadow stretched into something alive, something crouched just out of reach. Private Anders muttered under his breath. No animal does that. No man either. Diaz shot him a glare, whispering, shut it. You'll get us killed. But the thought was already planted. The deeper they went, the more they found. Another tree shredded with claw marks. Bark stripped clean as if an enormous hand had raked it down to the heartwood. A helmet, Marine issue, split in half like a crushed can. And then the tracks. Paw prints the size of dinner plates, pressed so deep into the earth they filled with water. Miles crouched to inspect them. His jaw worked as though chewing through the truth he didn't want to say. Keep moving, stay sharp. That's when the whispers began. Through comms, faint, broken, like someone speaking on an old tape. Echo 2's voice. Miles, behind you. They froze. Miles ripped off his headset. Scanning the squad, you hear that? Anders nodded, face pale beneath the green glow. It sounded like him, but he's dead, Diaz hissed. We all saw him. He's dead. The voice came again, clearer this time, like it was right beside them. Run. A crash in the brush. Every rifle. snapped toward the sound, but it wasn't the beast. It was the forest itself, groaning as though something massive pushed through it. Miles signaled, "Split formation, sweep wide." The Marines spread into the trees, hearts pounding. Every step felt like walking deeper into something ancient, a place where modern war didn't matter. Diaz stumbled across something half buried in the leaves. A journal, its pages torn and stained. He flipped it open. The handwriting was frantic, scratched in pencil, notes bleeding into sketches of wolves standing upright. He caught a glimpse of one sentence before Miles yanked it from him. "Bullets don't kill them, only silver." Diaz swallowed. "What the hell is this?" Miles stuffed it in his pack. "Ignore it. Focus on the mission." But Anders wasn't ignoring it. His hands trembled on his rifle, his voice cracked. This is a goddamn story. A campfire story. Werewolves, man, this is—" "Shut your mouth," Miles snapped, eyes burning. But even he looked shaken, because every claw mark, every howl, every whisper through the comms lined up too well. The Marines pressed on, deeper into the cursed forest, and with each step, the sense of being watched grew heavier. It wasn't just one set of eyes. It was a pack, and somewhere in the dark, something laughed. Some of you know this legend already. Comment if you've heard whispers of this curse before. The forest exploded in motion. Something slammed through the underbrush with the force of a Humvee, scattering pine needles and shaking branches. The Marines spun in unison, barrels blazing. Muzzle flashes tore the night apart, streaking green across their NVGs. Suppressed gunfire rattled the woods, each burst controlled, disciplined. The thing howled, not in pain. No, in rage, in hunger. It burst from the tree line, 7 feet tall, fur black as night, slick with rain and blood. Its eyes glowed amber. Burning against the green of the goggles, the beast didn't flinch as rounds tore through its body. It didn't fall, it charged. Private Anders fired, point blank. The beast swiped once, just once, and Anders's body hit the ground with a crack that sounded like splitting timber. His rifle clattered uselessly beside him. "Claymore! Ow!" Miles roared. Diaz and another Marine fumbled, slamming the mine into the dirt. Wire pulled taut, hands shaking. The werewolf lunged again. Click! The explosion ripped the clearing apart. Shards of steel, fire, dirt, bark. The blast threw men backward. Ears rang, lungs burned. For a second, they thought it was over. Smoke drifted. A shape moved within it. Slow, deliberate. The beast stepped. Out, half its face shredded, one arm dangling wrong but still alive. Still grinning, and then it changed. The muzzle retracted, bones cracking and folding in on themselves, reshaping with sickening pops. Fur melted into torn flesh. For a breathless moment, they weren't staring at a beast at all. They were staring at Private Anders, or what was left of him. His body twisted, eyes wide with agony, mouth open in a scream that wasn't his anymore. His form buckled, snapped, stretched, and in the space of seconds the wolf returned. Stronger than before, Diaz screamed, unloading his rifle into its chest. The rounds sparked, tore, ripped. But the werewolf laughed through the gunfire, a wet, guttural laugh that sounded too human. Fall back. Fall back now, Miles ordered. The Marines scattered, boots hammering the ground. The werewolf lunged again, cutting through their line like a blade through paper. One Marine's scream rose, cut short by the sound of tearing. Another stumbled, dragged into the tree line, his flashlight whipping wildly until it vanished. The survivors regrouped, ragged and broken, hearts pounding in their ears. Their rifles shook in their hands. "It was him," Diaz whispered. His voice cracked. "That thing. It was Anders. I saw his face. I saw it." Miles clenched his jaw. His eyes said what none of them wanted to. Anders hadn't died, he'd turned, and if one Marine could chain, how many more could? The forest grew still again. The only sound was ragged breathing, dripping blood, and the echo of the beast's laughter. If the snap of bone made you wince, hit like and let the algorithm know you survived. The Marines broke formation. No longer a fire team. No longer soldiers. Just men crashing through the undergrowth, lungs heaving, rifles clutched like lifelines. Their NVGs shook with every step, the green blur of branches and pine needles smearing into chaos. Behind them came the howl. Not one this time, several. Diaz's heart hammered in his chest. He'd fired until his barrel smoked, watched Anders' face twist into a muzzle. And still he couldn't believe it, couldn't process it. "They didn't tell us, no one told us this was real," he shouted between gasps. "Shut up," Miles barked, though his own breath came ragged. He was supposed to keep them together, but even he knew this wasn't a fight. It was a slaughter in waiting. Branches snapped to their left. A shape flickered through the trees, too fast to aim at. Then another to the right. The squad was being herded. One Marine panicked, wheeled, and fired blind into the dark. The gunfire stuttered through the forest, and for a second, the squad thought maybe, just maybe, he'd hit something. Then came the scream, not the beast's his. The Marines glimpsed it in a flicker of NVG light. Claws dragging him into the brush, his boots carving desperate trenches in the soil until the trees swallowed him whole. His screams cut off in a wet crunch. The squad didn't stop running. Miles finally signaled them down. They collapsed behind a fallen log, sucking air, ears straining. Silence pressed in, thick and suffocating. Only the faint trickle of blood dripping from one Marine's shredded vest broke it. Diaz shook his head, whispering, "That was Anders. It turned him. It turned him. What if..." He clutched his arm where the beast had grazed him. "What if it's in me now?" No one answered because they were all thinking it. The radio crackled suddenly, making them all flinch. Static hissed. Then a voice bled through, familiar, broken. "Run. No silver. No hope. Echo 2, Diaz whispered, but the voice wasn't Echo 2 anymore. It warped mid-sentence, twisting into a growl that rattled the earpiece and then cut out. A branch cracked above them, heads snapped upward, through the trees. Half silhouetted by the pale light of the moon, they saw claws curling around bark. A massive shadow shifted across the canopy, pacing them from above like a predator waiting for the right moment. Another shadow answered from the ground, and another, Miles' face went pale. "They're not just hunting us, they're playing with us." The squad gripped their rifles tighter, but deep down they knew bullets didn't matter. Claymores didn't matter. Training didn't matter. The forest belonged to them, the wolves, and the Marines were just trespassers. And then the howls came again, circling, overlapping, too many to count. Where would you run if glowing eyes stared through your window? Tell me below. I want to see who would survive. The squad huddled in a shallow depression, the moonlight slicing through the pines in cold silver shafts. Steam rose from their breath, from the blood soaking their fatigues. They should have been regrouping, setting perimeters, calling for evac. Instead, they just sat there, weapons trembling in their hands, waiting for the next howl. Diaz was the first to break. He pulled the journal from Miles's pack, the one he'd seen earlier. His hands shook as he flipped the ruined pages, eyes scanning the frantic script. "It's all here," he whispered. "Someone's been through this before. Someone who knew." Miles snatched at it, but Diaz pulled back, his voice cracking. "It says bullets don't work. Claymores don't work. Nothing works unless..." He held the book up, jabbing at a line scrawled in bold, "Only silver can sever the curse." The squad went still. "Silver?" One Marine scoffed, trying to laugh but failing. "What the hell? Do we look like monster hunters?" Diaz ignored him, flipping another page. There were sketches. Upright wolves, claws raking through barbed wire, bodies half man, half beast, scrawled notes about infection, about bites spreading the curse like fire in dry grass. His fingers traced. One passage, his voice barely audible. "Once bitten, the change begins. First the nightmares, then the whispers. Finally the bones break and the man is gone." The squad's eyes went to Diaz's arm. The one raked earlier. Blood seeped through the bandage. He saw their stares and his face crumpled. "I'm fine," he said, but his voice betrayed him. "I'm still me." Miles tore the journal from his hands, flipping quickly through the pages. He stopped on one section, underlined 3 times. "They wear our faces to break our will. Never trust what you see in the dark." As if on cue, the radio hissed again. A voice came through, clear, desperate, familiar. "It's me. It's Anders. Don't shoot. I'm still alive, please. It's me." The Marines froze. That voice they'd served with Anders, eaten chow with him, laughed with him, and now he was calling to them through static, begging for help. Diaz's jaw clenched. "That's not him. You saw it. You..." All saw it, but one Marine's eyes watered, his rifle lowered a fraction. What if it is him? What if? The forest erupted with movement. A massive shape crashed into the clearing, eyes burning, muzzle slick with blood. It hit the doubter first, tearing him down before he could scream. The squad opened fire, but every round was wasted. Thunder. The beast dropped the Marine's corpse and rose to its full height, claws spread wide, teeth shining under the moon. Miles's face hardened. He ripped a combat knife from his vest. Silver's the key? Then we make do. Melt coins. Jewelry. Anything. He looked at Diaz, at the bandage soaking through. But first, we need to decide if you're one of us or one of them. Diaz's breath hitched. The squad turned on him, fear and fury mixing because the journal was clear. Once bitten, the clock starts ticking. Diaz's hands shook as he raised his rifle, pointing it at his own squad. I'm still me, he whispered. I swear, I'm still. A howl split the night, closer than ever, drowning his words. The forest itself seemed to lean in, ready to watch what came next. Curses like this don't end. They echo, subscribe, and join the archive before the next howl. The clearing was a tomb of shadows and silver moonlight. The squad, what was left of it, circled up, backs to one another, weapons clutched in bloody hands. Rifles were nearly dry, claymores gone, grenades wasted, and the howls. The howls came from every direction. Miles's voice cut through the dread. Listen up. Last stand. They want us to break. We don't. We fight until nothing's left. Diaz's breathing was ragged, fevered sweat rolling down his face. The bite throbbed. Like fire beneath his skin, his pupils were blown wide, lips quivering. He clutched his rifle like a talisman, though deep down he already knew. It wasn't the enemy he feared anymore. It was himself. The first charge hit like thunder. A massive wolf burst from the tree line, claws arcing. A Marine shoved a flare straight into its jaws. The beast reeled, muzzle burning red, but it recovered too fast. Its claws sank into the Marine's chest, lifting him into the air before tossing him aside like a rag doll. Gunfire erupted, strobing the night. Wolves crashed in from all sides. The clearing became chaos. Claws flashing, steel slashing, muzzle flashes blinding. One Marine drove his bayonet into a wolf's side, screaming as the blade bent uselessly against its ribs. He was crushed a heartbeat later. Miles pulled a pouch from his vest. Coins. Tokens, a St. Michael pendant. He jammed them into the hilt of his knife, binding them with bloody tape. When the next wolf lunged, he drove the blade up beneath its jaw. The beast shrieked, thrashing, its body convulsing as silver touched bone. And then, it collapsed, dead. The squad froze. For the first time all night, they'd seen it. Proof that silver worked. Silver! Miles roared. Hit them with silver! They tore rings from fingers, necklaces from necks, coins from pockets. Anything that glinted, they bound them to blades, stuffed them into rifle chambers, improvised weapons in seconds. Another wolf lunged. This time, the silver-slashed bayonet drove true. The beast shrieked and crumpled. The Marines howled back, half-mad, fighting like men possessed, but the pack was endless. For every wolf that fell, two more closed in. The clearing became a pit of fire and blood. Flares lit the chaos. In blinding red, painting every tree like a cathedral of slaughter. Diaz staggered, falling to his knees. His breath came in wet gasps. His bones cracked, ribs shifting beneath his skin. His scream turned guttural. Miles turned, eyes wide. No, not now, not him. Diaz's body convulsed, stretching, ripping. His helmet fell away as fur burst through. Flesh. The squad watched in horror as their brother dissolved into something monstrous. Snout elongating, eyes burning, hands curling into claws. Diaz, one Marine whispered. God forgive us. He lunged at them, half-formed, half-human, howl splitting into a scream. Miles met him head-on, silver knife flashing. The blade punched through Diaz's chest. His face flickered human one last time. Eyes, wet with tears, before he collapsed into the dirt. The survivors screamed with rage, swinging silver-bound blades at anything that moved. The air reeked of blood and burning fur. The moon was high now, casting every detail in merciless clarity, and then came the largest wolf of all, the alpha. It stepped into the clearing, towering, scarred, its eyes glowing like molten gold. The surviving Marines faltered, blades dripping, hearts breaking. Miles tightened his grip on his knife. "Hold the line," he growled. Though his voice was nearly gone, the Alpha roared, shaking. The forest, and the last stand began. This isn't the last transformation. The next one is worse. Follow the howl to the story waiting on screen. The Alpha's roar still echoed in their skulls when silence finally fell. Not the peaceful kind. No, the kind of silence that comes after slaughter, when blood soaks the ground and breath is a privilege for the few left standing. Sergeant Miles, staggered, knife slick with gore, the silver coin taped to its hilt blackened from use. Around him, the clearing was a graveyard. Marines torn apart, wolves sprawled in heaps, smoke curling from smoldering flares. Only 3 of them remained, faces pale, uniforms shredded, eyes hollowed out. They weren't a squad anymore. They were survivors. The Alpha was gone. It had vanished into the tree line, leaving behind only the carnage and the certainty that it could have finished them if it wanted. It hadn't lost. It had chosen to leave, to spare them. Miles knew why. Wolves don't end the hunt. They let it echo. Diaz's body twitched nearby. Already cooling in the dirt, his face, half frozen between man and beast, stared blankly toward the stars. One of the Marines bent, as if to close his eyes, then stopped because those eyes, they still glowed faintly in the dark. No one touched him again. The radio crackled, breaking the silence. Command's voice came through, clipped and urgent. "Echo team, report. Status?" Miles stared at the blood-soaked mic. What could he say? That their brothers had turned into monsters? That silver, not bullets, had won the night? That the U.S. Marines had just fought a war against legends? He pressed the mic. His voice came flat, mechanical. Contact with hostiles, heavy casualties, mission complete. Survivors en route. He didn't mention wolves, didn't mention curses, didn't mention Diaz, because he knew this would never make it into the record. The truth would be buried under acronyms, under training accident or equipment failure. The curse would stay hidden, feeding in silence until the next howl. The 3 staggered back through the forest, dragging themselves out of that haunted clearing. Every step felt heavier, every breath shorter. They didn't speak, didn't dare, but the forest wasn't done with them. At the edge of the tree line, as the moon bled through the branches, Miles heard it again. Not behind them, not ahead, inside him. A low, gnawing growl in his chest. His hand twitched, gripping the knife hilt tighter. For a moment he swore he felt his bones ache, shifting, stretching. He didn't tell the others, he just kept walking, because some curses don't end with silver. They pass on, they wait. And somewhere in the distance, a howl rose, long, mournful, triumphant. Not hunting, not threatening, just reminding. This wasn't over. It never would be. The pack grows stronger with every whisper. Share this tale if you dare, and join us before the curse finds you alone. And for those who hunger for more, step deeper into the shadows with our ultimate werewolf horror playlist, linked in the description below. In the world of horror, the scariest things happen when you least expect them, and trust me, you don't want to be left in the dark. Welcome to the darkness.